Okay, this Hangout is now live. Hi, hello everyone. So this is Bruno Souza, and we are here with one more Hangout for the Code4.Life Career Secrets effort. You know, we're trying to get some very, very good and famous and non-Java developers to come here and share their stories and bring us some good advice on how we can improve our careers. As you all know, career is our job, is our responsibility. We got to be working on it every day. So we are here to get some ideas from some cool people that we can start now. So before anything else, I'm just gonna say hi to everyone. So I see Omer saying hi. I see Heinz here and Marcos and Rodrigo and lots of people. So if you're hearing me, if you can say hello, just so you know that the sound is good. And so we can start, and you know, this is all live. So as you know, it can go wrong at some times, but you know, just let us know if anything it's wrong or not working. And so you should see a chat window on your side. So if you can hear me, just say hello. And yeah, sounds perfect. Thanks, Heinz, Luis. Okay, that's good. All right, everything's hi, Nico. Jura, John, okay, lots of people, Luis, Nico, Vandana, Marcos, okay. Hi, everyone. Good, excellent. Now, well, we have here people all over the world. I'm going to introduce Kirk in a minute. So Kirk is in Europe somewhere. I'm going to ask him where he is in a minute. But so I want to know where you were from, right? So you're listening from. I know Heinz is from Greece, right? And Nagokoyovsky. Oh, Kirk, that's where Kirk is. Okay. All right. Okay. Alex's picture is fuzzy. Oh, Dubai. Omer's from Dubai. Okay. So Lucas from Brazil. Okay. Yeah. So Alex, you're seeing the picture. It's not. It's sometimes it's fuzzy. So we're using Google Hangouts here, and Google will adjust depending on the bandwidth. Usually on your side, a lot of times. So you know, the picture might be coming up, you know, fuzz a little bit and come back again, depending on the bandwidth. Okay, I can see Istanbul, Turkey, Mexico, Bangalore, Texas, India, Hungary, Pakistan. No, Hungary. No, he's asking about you. From all over the world, Telasonic, Greece. What else? Brazil. Okay. Rio de Janeiro, cool. That's you know, for you that are in Europe right now, it's really hot here in Brazil. So I'm in São Paulo, Brazil, and let me introduce you to this amazing guy that's here with us. So Kirk is a good friend. I've known Kirk for many years in events around the world. He is an amazing performance specialist. He travels all over the world teaching us how to do performance in Java. But you know, he's much more than that. He's a passionate about Java. You know, he actually fights for all of us inside the Java Champions program, and you know, kind of discuss about ways to improve Java and how to keep Oracle, you know, true to the Java community. So with you, so hi Kirk, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing, Bruno? You look rather hot.
Yes, it's kind of hot here right now. So where are you, Kirk, right now?
I'm sitting in my office room in Nagykovácsi, Hungary, okay, which is cool. A small little village just outside of Budapest.
All right, pretty nice. Is it cold over there?
It's going to -5.
Okay, all right.
So if you send a little heat over this way, my wife would really appreciate it. I myself.
Yeah, you should come down.
My room is probably the same temperature as yours. It's about 22 right now for me.
Okay, so you should come down here right now, because you know we can actually go to the pool right after this webinar, because it's so hot. Okay, so I see no, there's New Jersey, Slovakia, Spain. There's lots of people. Tasmania. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Kirk, for being here with us. So Trevor, all of you that are watching us here, we want to make this really interactive. And so feel free to ask any questions on the chat. I'll be here asking those questions to Kirk. There's some of you sent questions beforehand, and I'm going to ask some of those questions to Kirk also. But Kirk, let me kind of start. Really, you have a long story in the Java world, and you were one of the Java champions. I think you were one of the founding Java champions, and you're one of the guys that actually sit on the Java Champions board, helping out, recruiting and evaluating future Java champions. So I'm going to ask you this. What did it take for you to become a Java champion? Not on the title only, but what did it take for you to actually get into Java technology and become a Java specialist?
Okay, well, how do we start this? I never imagined becoming a Java champion. It wasn't exactly something I actually thought of or even considered. I actually wasn't a founding member of the Java Champions, but I think I came in probably within the first wave of people that came in after the first or second wave after the program was started. Mm-hmm. As I said before, I have no idea how I got to be a Java champion, except for someone nominated me, and apparently I met the qualifications, and that's it for the Java champion part. Getting into Java was somewhat of an accident. We were talking 96, 97, that time frame. Mm-hmm. Come out, and people were just kicking the tires on it to see what it could do. And a lot of companies were looking at this and were like, it's probably going to be an interesting market, a big market. It seemed to fill a gap that was in the market in terms of languages. At that point, I was doing a lot of small talk work. And I joined a company that was producing a very interesting product. It was actually an object database, what I call a true object database. And they wanted to port that into Java. Mm-hmm. I entered the company with no idea that that's what was going on. And so the first thing they did was, when I got through the door, they said, okay, we need you to learn Java. As well as continue to do the small talk work. For me it was a bit strange because I'd done a lot of C work and Fortran and assembler and Cal and a number of other weird languages. Of course, a lot of small talk work in there also. To say, except for I got through the door, and all of a sudden they said, okay, you need to learn Java. So I went off and got the books, the IDEs. Anyone remember Visual Cafe?
Yes.
One of the first Java IDEs that was available. So we managed to get it, and it was, at first it was very confusing because I think we were in like a 1.1.2 J or 3 JVM with a 2.0 or 1.1 something Visual Cafe with, it was basically of all of the stuff, and we're just looking at go, okay, what's all this, stuff, crap, I guess. So I sat down in a little cube and said, okay, well, let's figure this stuff out. And the first project I actually wrote, the first thing I wrote in Java was actually an SMTP server, not client, but server.
Yeah, that time
it was something that I had done. Sorry?
Yeah, at that time there was a lot of servers being written in Java because it was the thing that could be multi-platform and things like that.
Yeah, well, that turned out to be true, but. At that time, it wasn't really the case. I mean, everyone was looking at this going like, great, we'll have small talk servers and we'll have Java front ends because, hot Java and all of these other GUI technologies that, you know, now seems quite ridiculous, but at the time, that's the way everyone was thinking. And so I did this piece of server work, and I was most way through it, and all of a sudden their supervisor came up and says, "Go to this client, we're sending you to a client. You're replacing a consultant that's there." And I said, "Well, okay, I'm not quite finished sorting out Java." And they said, "Okay, well, don't worry about that." And I just casually asked this, "Okay, so why are you replacing this guy?" And they said, "He doesn't have enough Java experience." There for a year doing Java work. I've been actually at this for like 2 weeks. And so, like, okay, ship the client site, trial by ordeal. I have to say the company was quite nice about the whole thing. In other words, they didn't expect too much. That was just there as a stopgap. But essentially, I was able to work at stuff I could sort out during the day. During the evening, it was just head on figuring it out. And eventually, you know, it all made sense. Pretty much started that way. And that's really how we got started in the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
and do you think that's you had to get experience on the job, and I think this is true for a lot of us, right? You know, we gotta we want to learn new technology, and a lot of times we go to events, for example, and we see all those new cool things. You know, right now everyone's talking about microservices and containers and all this kind of things, for example, cloud computing, and then you see all this cool stuff, and then you know, we try to find a project inside our companies that someone is going to accept to do that, right? You think that's learning on the job? Was it good for you, or it would be better if you had more chance to actually practice outside or on a small project like that before you had to jump in so fast?
You know, I think that the learning on the job was a bit stressful, but ultimately I think it worked because in those environments we had to focus on what was important and what was needed and what we needed to sort out and what we needed to learn. Basically, you know, forget about the rest. And there's a whole bunch of different technologies that we could have messed around with for quite some time, and it would have been interesting and would have learned a lot, but I'm not sure that it would have been all that useful.
Right.
So I think that you know, learning on the job is an important aspect of the whole experience, I think.
Yeah. So with so many technologies that's you know, all the vendors throw at us, and things are always changing, and you know, new frameworks showing up. And there's a questions here from Omer saying that, you know, what do you think of Java compared to JavaScript and Node.js? You know, so you know, right now, for example, in JavaScript, there's so many technologies and things coming out, and the ecosystem is kind of messy. We've gone through this in Java also, where the ecosystem was really messy with the web frameworks, for example. So with so many things happening, how do you choose what it's actually worth to go study and go deeper? Are you like a person that goes really deep into something, or you kind of prefer to get a broad view of technologies?
Okay, so at the beginning of my career, I sort of refused to specialize. Whenever somebody would pigeonhole me into a specialization, I figured, okay, that was the time to evict myself out of that particular situation and sort of go broad. So, and in a lot of the projects, I was pretty much the only one that would be working in, well, in the one project we were working on, which was effectively a microservice-based architecture, I was the only one working in Smalltalk, C, Assembler, Fortran, and a number of different other languages at the same time. Pretty much everybody else in the group had specialized either one or two languages, but I was actually managing to do work and work here and there and several. So it was a very, very polyglot environment, and that was really nice because it meant that I was able to use skills from all over the place. And I think what's important there is that you gain a really deep understanding of the fundamentals, so that by the time we moved to Java, you could look at it and say, okay, that looks like how this stuff works, and it's different from this other stuff. And so if I'm coding here, then it should look like this, and if I'm coding over there, it should look like that, and this is good for this, and that's good for that. And really, that's that was a key thing. And I think there's another thing that I did very early on, is I took about an hour to an hour and a half every morning, and I did nothing but read every morning.
Okay.
And I kept doing this for years and years and years, just reading just stuff every morning that was related to something or another. And I think if you do that, then it's another good way of basically understanding the fundamentals, but then seeing how the fundamentals apply to the current everyday technology.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look at the future of JavaScript and Node.js and all of these other things, I mean, all of this technology has a life cycle. Right. Java's had an incredibly long life cycle. I know in 2005, when we're looking at the 10th year anniversary of Java, the big question was, what replaces Java? Mm-hmm. What is around the corner that's actually going to replace this thing? Because the biggest reason to go into these higher level languages is to improve developer productivity. And developer productivity comes from, well, being able to express the problems efficiently in the language and having libraries, good frameworks, and tools around the language. And this is one of the reasons why Java is still the heap. It's top of the heap because it has reasonable expressibility within the language, which has actually gotten better in Java 8. When you look at the tools, libraries, and frameworks and everything that's surrounded, they're have a lot of support to do a lot of things. And not only that, that support is fairly safe. In other words, I can bring in a new framework and it's not going to bring down my runtime fairly easily. Or if it is, it's going to do it in such a way that I can detect it and sort out what's going on beforehand. So if you roll back out and you think, okay, what's in Java that makes it like that as opposed to what's in JavaScript? You'd have to say that, JavaScript has a lot of interesting, but I'm questioning its ability to scale out as a language. Certainly, I question the ability to be easily adopted by average everyday developers. That's what I fear for JavaScript. On the other hand, JavaScript does have its uses and its benefits, and I think that if people are intelligent about it and they actually build up the tooling around it, that would be a very useful technology. Certainly, I think it's going to be a useful technology for people to know because, as you know, it's an integral part of HTML5. So if it gets embedded that deeply in our technology stack, it's going to get stuck in there, and it's going to be very difficult to evict it for something else.
Right.
Pretty much the same way Java is.
Okay, so just go back. You said that, going back to one thing you said that for many years you refused to specialize, right? You wanted
Correct.
to be have this broad view. And I think that's, once you have the broader view you have, actually, it's nice because then you open more opportunities for the things that you want to do. So there's a question here that's the name is Me, so I think that hi Me. So Me asks that if you're hiring an aspiring developer for a company, so would you look for someone who specializes like in a language knowledge or in a broader view, right? Algorithms, etc. So since you start like this, what would you do? What do you do when you hire people?
Okay, so in hiring situations, you can go one of two ways on this. Like for instance, now I have a need for a developer to do something for me. Term contract, and I want something specific done. So I'm looking for someone who has a very specific skill set. In that case, so I will, with the idea that okay, I need you to have the specific skill set because essentially you have 1 month, 6 weeks, or whatever to complete this task, right? And it's very compartmentalized and well defined. And if I'm hiring someone for a longer term, I'm going to go for a completely different interviewing process. Worst interviewing interviews that I had was for a company. Once the guy had a list of questions. Have you ever used this technology? And one of them was, well, have you ever used JDBC? And my answer was no, because I've been working with object databases. You don't need JDBC when you have an orthogonal persistence system. Sheet and turned over and didn't bother asking me any questions on JDBC. And I'm going like, okay, yeah, I haven't used it in a project, but I do know what it is. I do know how it works. I understand the fundamentals of it. And I can answer some fairly deep questions about the issues and whatever about it. And it was just seemed like he was looking for a specific technology stack, but for a long-term employment situation. For a long-term employment situation, I want someone who can think and can learn and can present ideas, all right? That's, to me, I'm not looking for, as long as you have fundamentally good skills, then pretty much everything else, you're going to have to learn it anyways. So in my opinion, that's these important skills also that people don't properly interview for. They'll just look for, buzzword resume checking. And if you fill the buzzwords, then, you're in. I found that kind of annoying because I found, if you put your mind to something, you can learn how to sort through the issues and people that bring a lot of other good qualities to the table and solve a lot of other problems.
Right. So I have a question about this, but before I go into that question, there's just remember everyone that you can ask questions here. There's lots of technical questions. We're going to go to the technical questions in a minute.
Sure.
But you're talking about an interview that you had to do, and have you in your career, did you have to go through lots of interviews? Did you change company lots of times, or you've been like a sole entrepreneur for a long time? How did your career go?
Well, actually, I started off as a biochemist. To be quite honest, I had 2 jobs as a biochemist.
Okay.
And yeah, that didn't work out so as well as I fortunately it didn't work out that well. And I ended up getting a lot of jobs because I was actually the only person that had, or one of the few people that had a lot of computing experience when I actually graduated from biochemistry, because one summer the economy was bad, so I took computer science courses over the summer, and they turned out to be incredibly useful because I could do all of my homework by just writing a few programs and plunking the numbers in, and it was quite a useful skill. And then afterwards, when I got out, it was a differentiator, a huge differentiator in terms of people were looking at it going like, okay, not much of a biochemist, but wow, he can do all this programming crap, and we haven't got a clue what to do with these things. And so after I jumped ship and basically went into computing full time, I don't think I jumped around that much. I had a government job, surprisingly, and a few other contracts and stuff like that. But they weren't that term until I then went on my own and started doing subcontracting, and now I can say that I have about 20 or 30 new jobs every year.
Yes,
which is which essentially means that you're constantly interviewing.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get back to your being like a self-employed guy a little later. But let me ask you one thing. So Better asks us here. So you talk a lot about learn by yourself, right? You spend in your career. You spend many hours, like one and a half hours a day, just reading stuff and trying to get sense of all of that and all of these. And so Beta asks us, what separates a great Java developer from a good Java developer? And one of the things that I've been, there's some studies about expertise that shows that what really separates someone that's like an amazing expert from the guy that's just good is, the different mental representation that we have about the things that we do, right? So the better the mental representation we have about our work and the code that we work with and the technology that we use, whatever it is that we work with, the better we are able to figure out by ourselves what we're doing wrong and kind of select things. So, and it looks like you spend a lot of time kind of building your mental representation. So what do you think separates like a great Java developer from a good Java developer?
I don't really know. I mean, the people that are really good for tool sets, and they know how to manipulate them very effectively. And I think that Java is just one tool that we would use to manipulate our tool sets. And what I mean, if you look at what are the tool sets for a programmer? Well, the first thing is a computer. Having an understanding of what actually a computer looks like and what it does and how it functions is kind of fundamental to the whole picture, because it helps you. If you understand how these things work, then of course it helps you to make better decisions. The language is obviously. The operating system is always an important role. So if you're doing JEE, then you have a different tool set on top of it. Knowing your IDE, I mean, Heinz is in here, and Heinz gives he has a number of wonderful videos where it's just your IDE better. And I'd recommend looking at his VMO stuff. You can put a link up there, anyways, for it. So just knowing your tools and understanding how they work at a fundamental level, so that you can navigate around and you can make good decisions. One thing, I think the ability to actually separate concerns and look at the big picture as well as the little picture, so you can get into the minutiae of the details for a while, and then all of a sudden decide, like, okay, I need to step back and look at the big picture and see how does this all fit into everything, is also another important skill that I think you have to have.
And so Alex, Alex here asked like a question that goes a little bit along the lines you're saying about. He says, what would you say differentiates in skills on today's job market? How can I differentiate myself from other developers so I can get to work on those really interesting projects? Working on interesting projects makes a big difference for a developer.
How do you differentiate yourself? Do something interesting. People I know have done something exceptionally interesting. Like you're sitting here tonight conducting this webinar, and that's actually something interesting in the sense that you're getting exposure to a bunch of different people, being exposed to new ideas, and you're building a network and making connections, so that why do you want to differentiate your skills in today's Java job market? Well, I mean, you want to stand out so that people pick you, right?
Right, yeah.
Make yourself interesting. And this is where I think generalization makes it more difficult. Specialization actually helps. So but I would say that the generalization was important, because it helped with the specialization, because even if you're specialized, you still have to know especially fits into all these other general topics. And so if you are specializing, that should make yourself interesting, but it's going to make yourself interesting to a select crowd that wants those specific skills. But if you generalize, then basically you're going to be mixed in with the masses. You know, so
yeah, a lot
I
of
think
people.
specialization is an important part of that.
Yeah, that's interesting because we developers, we always work with this idea of scale, right? So we think about, oh, we got to scale, we got to reach more people, we got to do for more people. And then it's funny that a lot of times when you specialize, that's actually when you reach more people, because more people get, more of that people that want that are interested in hearing you. And when you're trying to talk to everyone, you're trying to reach everyone, really what happens is that you're not talking to anyone, so there's less people actually interested in you.
Yeah, I think that's a very true statement, and I think specializing in doing something interesting, solving a problem, is a good way to do it. Doing it in open source, I think, has its advantages in the sense that it can give you broad reach very quickly. I think that there's a role of open source in all of this. Okay.
So let me switch gears a little bit here. There's lots of very, very cool technical questions here. So let me kind of switch to that a little bit. So first of all, I think that an area that you're very, very specialized at, right? This performance in garbage collector. So Heinz here asks, how important was the garbage collector for the success of Java? Could the same have been achieved with reference counting, like in JavaScript and Swift?
I don't think that people can understate the importance of memory managed environments for the success of any particular language that happens to have used them. And I think Java the success of Java is a multidimensional. Certainly, I would say that garbage collection and managed memory was a huge part of that. It really meant that, right? And safe to share in the sense that I could build a library and I could pass it off to someone who didn't know who I was. And if it seemed to work, they could use it, and they didn't have to worry, my code taking down their environments so much. Certainly not in the same way that you could take down an environment with C++ code, right? So you're not going to segv and have these like catastrophic failures in a Java application that you can see in a in like a C++ application or in many of the other languages that we used before. I think so that aspect of it I think is very important. Now, so talking about JavaScript engines and Python engines and what was the other one Heinz asked for? It was like Swift. Yeah. So we could get into technical discussion of garbage collectors, but I don't think that's the point of the evening. But JavaScript has gone to all of the JavaScript engines really now use the same type of garbage collection that's used in Java. And Swift uses reference counting, but the fallback is actually a pointer-based, reference-based tracing algorithm. I believe that's in Swift that they fall back onto when reference counting actually fails. Reference counting led to the disasters such as COM/DCOM. I mean, very successful technology on the surface, but of course it wasn't stable over time. And surprisingly enough, they use garbage collection in COM and DCOM, but it's reference counting based, which meant that you always had instability inside Windows because of that. But unfortunately for distributed garbage collection, we haven't really seen any improvements in that technology since like '94 or something like that. So we're still stuck with the same stuff, but there's just all of these issues. So in this case, I think Java actually got it right. they did actually follow the Smalltalk model, and Smalltalk had years, well, a couple of decades of experience with garbage collection. And it's sort of like Android. Android went down the same path. Well, when they basically copied the Delve JVM, it started off simple and it got more complex over time. So Smalltalk was highly evolved and complex by the time Java came along. The Java implementations were fairly simple, but I think now they've become exceptionally complex. You almost have to be a specialist in order to understand how they function, but they handle things so much better than they used to. You know, so it's really one of the things that I think we wouldn't be here without it.
Yeah, so Partha asked here a little bit more details about garbage collection. He or she asks, what is the area of G1 you would like to improve, if there are any? And then he also says, in the future, will there be no full garbage collector?
Full GC? You can never run out of memory. If you run out of memory, you're going to have to stop everything and shuffle everything around.
Right.
And that would be a full GC.
Okay.
So I think there's always going to be a need for full GC because someone's always going to write something that and you're going to be forced to shuffle things around.
Right.
What are the areas of G1 you would like to improve? If there are any, there are many areas of the G1 that we'd like to improve. I think I think in this forum it's difficult to have a discussion without being able to have diagrams and pictures and things like that. But I think the G1 has a long way to go. We actually see a lot of hope in Shenandoah these days. Garbage collector that's supposedly built for large heaps. And I think we've benched it a few months ago, but the way it looks now is like we're ready to bench it again to see if it's actually going to be a viable alternative to G1, which I think it is. I think it's only a matter of time, but it's going to be a viable alternative to the G1. Say in general, the G1 for most of the heap sizes people use is not a competitive collector today. Okay,
so there's a question here. I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit related with that is Internet of Things in Java, IoT in Java. So part asks if Java and IoT are actually going to go together for a long time, and
why not?
And then John says, is Java really suitable for IoT devices without Jigsaw and AOT?
I don't see anything wrong. I mean, these are like larger devices, but, you know, sitting in front of me is, you know, you must recognize that, right?
Yeah.
Runs Java, does a beautiful job. I've actually, you know, racked them up and used them for a whole bunch of different purposes. So it's nice for building little clusters for testing lots of things. And it's actually they work fairly well in a number of embedded devices. I've actually done embedded device work with Java. It works super well.
Yeah, it's funny that you know, people ask about Java and IoT, but really when we started with Java, the computers were actually smaller than the IoT device we have today. Right.
I have to tell you, a friend of mine ran a blog site for a number of years on a 486 with 512 megabytes of RAM, like 512 megabytes of RAM, 40 gig hard disk, you know. So it was, you know, pretty big, but he had 40,000 users on that machine that he was supporting. If you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
So 40,000 users on a machine that size running a JVM with a MySQL database.
Yeah,
Go figure.
It is amazing what we did in the past, right? So Heinz says that he loves the quote, the S in IoT stands for security. But one of the interesting things that you mentioned was that, you know, the garbage collector kind of brought this safety share around Java. Do you think that Java is still it still has all the security concerns in the right place, and it's still focused on security the right way?
Yeah, this is where I think Oracle's actually done a reasonable job. I mean, they got whacked really hard in the PR because of the holes that were actually in the browser. Quite frankly, I think the browser is another problem the JavaScript people are going to have is, how are we going to secure browsers? Because, the Java guys just sort of like backed off and said, we can't do this. This is a PR nightmare, so we're not going to bother trying, which is unfortunate. But we're just going to leave it for other people to get beat up on. And but I think just securing things in a browser in general is just going to be completely difficult. And I think that with IoT, I mean, we're going to have a security issue also. I mean, you already have a security issue. I mean, you already have things like cars talking to each other when they're approaching intersections.
Right.
So, so the question is, how do you know when you're approaching an intersection that you're actually talking to another car? How do you know you don't have someone spoofing you that just wants to stop you for some nefarious reason? And already, you see things happening like with these interesting conversations around the Tesla cars and security. Somebody had their Tesla stolen, and they knew exactly where it was, but the question is, quickly steered in, just like how would you steal a Tesla and is it actually useful to do so, and so on and so forth. And as it turns out, security of a Tesla is a concern. It's basically it's an open platform. An open platform. It's an open platform that you can control externally, which as a driver should make you kind of nervous because they were suggesting that the car could drive the thief to the nearest police station. But you can drive the car to the nearest police station. That means the car can drive itself to anywhere you want without the driver actually having the ability to override what the car is saying or doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a interesting time. It's, interesting problems.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so and I think this is it's one of those things, right? Those are interesting problems that makes our life as developers very, very interesting because if we can actually tackle some of those problems, that's a really, really cool thing to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How do you make sure that when your car is talking to another car, that's actually talking to a car?
Yeah.
And how do you ensure that the car, the data being transmitted is actually correct? And, coming to the blind intersection, the car is going to stop for you because of the other approaching car has right of way or something, as opposed to somebody with ulterior motives doing it for you, not really having a car there or something. It's just like one example. In other words, this is the one thing I've noticed is that this is really, really a huge industry. There's a lot of opportunities here. Basically, you're limited by your imagination and what you can do. And if you have a good open imagination or a good idea, then right now it's a level playing field. Anyone can come to the table and has a real good chance of making a success out of it if they have all the right skills behind them. And some of these aren't just technological skills. You'd have to look at some of the other skills that you need. Like, for instance, having cross-disciplinary skills is I think, important. So I don't just have programming skills. I actually took a lot of economics courses, and economics is actually quite useful in computing, or especially the type of computing that I do. Business skills are actually quite useful if you want to become independent or if you want to build your own business, then you need to understand what are angels, what are VCs, what are Series A's, even if you're joining new companies, then if you have a business background, you understand what you need to ask for from the company that you can get, so that you can get better compensation. One of the things I did when I was working in consulting firms was really just get to know the salespeople and understand and figure out how I can help them. What can we do to make their life easier? Understand what's important to them, understand what's important to the business. It's not just about technology. It's not just about the newest, shiniest thing. It's about things that sometimes we don't consider.
Very, very good. So actually,
interaction.
You're talking about all those opportunities and everything, and that's what Alex was asking before. How do I can work on those different projects, and it's one interesting thing is that for you to work on all those interesting projects, exactly what you said is the technology is we must know the technology, otherwise we're not even in the game, right? But a lot of the things that you mentioned here, cross-discipline and business skills and know how to present to people and how to ask things and actually, understanding what other problems people have, all of these are the skills that kind of differentiate from you from others, right?
Yeah, they will actually act as these are soft skills, I think, in our industry that will differentiate you. In other words, if the salespeople like you and you're a consultant, you can be pretty much guaranteed that your utilizations are going to go up.
Right.
Especially if you are successful in the engagement. So in this case, you understood what the salespeople wanted. Well, they want you to go in and do your job, period, and not create a fuss with the customer or anything like that. Don't disturb things, in other words. You can do things like that, then these people will help you. And I would say in this industry, if you don't get help from people, you're not going to get very far. Mm-hmm. I think we've all have had help from different people, and I know that we all, at least as the Java champions, we all help different people to make different decisions to help them go forward with their career. I know Heinz has helped me an incredible amount. And in this case, I don't feel I've helped him enough, but we've passed, that along to other people that who started subcontracting as an example, and they just call up and they have conversations with them and say, what do I do? And so we ask a bunch of questions at the beginning, have a conversation with them to make sure that they're actually prepared mm-hmm. and able to do what they're about to embark on. So
yeah, I think when you say that maybe you didn't help Hans so much, it's actually, it helps a lot if you pay forward, right? You get help from someone, you go help someone else, right? And I think this phrase that you said, if you don't get help from people, you won't go very far. But a good way for you to get help from people is actually helping people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. So I think always willing to be trying to, always being in a position where you're willing to help people is an important aspect of everything. We started.
Yeah, Heinz says selfish people cannot become Java champions. Very true, Heinz.
And Heinz helps an incredible number of people. He probably helps more people than just about anyone that I know. So, so he's an incredible giving person. It's one of the reasons why we started JCreate is Heinz and I talked about this a number of years ago. We're saying we were actually I was a little jealous of Bruce Eccles' software summit that he had in Colorado, and Heinz was saying, yeah, we should start something like that, and where we could have fun. And we are selfish in the sense that we make sure that the people, a number of the people that we're interested in talking to and have fun with technology-wise actually show up. But on the other hand, the fallout is that we've helped a number of different people in different areas. Some people have gone on to become speakers at conferences, which has helped them in other aspects of their careers, and have basically looked at everything that's going on and learned from people there, and it gave them the confidence or the knowledge that they needed in order to make that next step in their career. And I think that that's been a really, really nice outcome of JCREAT, which is our little unconference. Yeah, so yeah, so, and what do we get from it? People all the time, which is fun for us. But other than that, it's a free conference. We don't charge. We don't have commercial sponsorship or commercial ties to it, or everything is Creative Commons that we talk about. So the whole idea is just to create an environment where people can come together and share knowledge.
So this is one interesting thing. I mean, we have things like JCREAT, and a lot of people travel around going to events as speakers, and lots of us kind of organize Java user groups. And the Java Champions are also a group that meets with some frequency in different places. Do you think that is important? Meeting, participating on those groups, participating on user groups, meeting other people, meeting speakers, meeting other developers. Do you think this is important for our careers?
Absolutely,
or we just do
100%.
Because we have fun?
You must get out and meet other people. You need to get out of your cube and stick your head up and go for a round and see what's going on. One of the things I learned early on in my career, the first job I had was a government job. We were all on big IBM mainframes, and of course, the push at that time was to go to open systems. In a period of 6 months, we obsoleted about 20 people out of their jobs. And these are people who came in at 8:30 in the morning, went home at 4:30 at the end of the day. And, they did their job and they did it well. But after that, that was it. They were basically 9 to 5 developers who bothered to educate themselves. And, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to educate yourself. It's your responsibility to get an employer that will help you maintain your education. And I would say that if you don't have an employer that's willing to help you educate yourself, then you need to find another employer, one who's willing to, because, at the end of the day, these guys were pushed into jobs that, maybe they didn't want, maybe they did, who knows, but they were gone. They were out of tech. That was it. And because they hadn't bothered to maintain their education, to keep themselves going as to move on to what the next, where the trends were going. It's hard to chase trends, and there's been a lot of trends that I haven't chased, and I've been lucky. I've picked the right trends to chase. So there's a bit of luck in there, I would say, but figure out where things are going, and you need to keep educating yourself, and part of the education process is to just get out there and talk to people who might have a broader view than you do.
Yeah, very, very good. So, there's, Hi says here, very good, don't get obsolete, right? I think that's a really important one. So there's two last technical questions here from Partha, and then there's a few more other questions that people submit before the webinar. And I want to go to those a little bit. So Partha asked one that I skipped it before, and that was about, where is it? So his Sun MISC unsafe. Can it be completely disposed of in Java 9? And the other question is
no.
No. All right, that's easy.
They'll never get rid of it, ever. I say that the technology you look at has a backdoor for, to get things done that the original developers never considered. Now, I could see that unsafe will be eventually, maybe in 10, maybe by 11, it'll be that you'll be able to you'll be able to deprecate it. It'll be deprecated in the sense that, there will be replacements for it. But as long as you have projects that are safe, large frameworks that are dependent upon unsafe, then you never are really able to get rid of something like that.
Right.
It's incredibly useful, and therefore, people have used it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it'll be around for a while.
Yeah. So Part also asks, thanks for the answer, by the way. And then he says, will Java 9 be able to handle spin loops?
I think it's something we talked about, I mean, this is a low latency question, and in the low latency world, you use single thread. So they want to have everything done in a single thread because they don't want any inter-thread communication. Any inter-thread communication is potentially expensive and can stall your threads for a considerable amount of time. And for a lot of calculations, it's just quicker just to do it in a single thread. Now, the question is, how do you accept work in that particular case from the outside world? Well, what we typically do is we'll look for work on a queue of some sort, which involves some sort of barrier in order to, make sure that the work becomes visible. And if there's no work, then we'll put the thread to rest. Manually. But then to wake the thread up takes a long time. It can take, what's the time? Yeah, somewhere in the vicinity of about 80,000 clocks, which is an incredible amount of time. So what do people do in those cases? Well, they basically lock a thread down so it's just spinning in a CPU. So they're just going to burn a core. And when they burn the core, the thread's going to be doing nothing except for checking, is there work, is there work, is there work, is there work. So you can basically spin weight this thing. In Java 9, there will be an API put onto thread to allow you to spin a thread like that. There wasn't any real way to spin a thread except for to put it into some loop and hope the JIT didn't optimize it away from out from underneath you.
Okay. All right. So let's. Okay. Go ahead.
Nope. I'm done.
No. Okay. All right. So yeah. So we are on top of the hour here. I'm not sure how long you still can be here with us, but there's some questions that people submit before the webinar started. I wanted to go through some of these. So an interesting thing that there's like a big trend here that many people are talking about working on nice projects in a little bit different ways. So Punet, for example, said that he wants to be a solution architect. And then Luke says that he wants to work on application to figure out real world problems. Juan Pablo, no, not Juan Pablo. He says, Soren said that, I hope one day can be part of a great team to develop some applications that people use every day. Alex says he wants to get involved with awesome projects. And Ehans says he wants to be a software architect to develop a software to solve people's problems. And and then Omer's actually here with us. He says that he wants to invent things. And so Rakesh says he wants to work on awesome on projects. So it is like a trend, right? Almost everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people that submit questions here, they want to work on something interesting. They want to work on something that's changed people's lives. They want to work on things that they find challenging, that they like the results of it. Do you think that, and it's interesting that with so many cool opportunities, like you're talking about, security and IoT and cars and all those kind of things, do we still have a lot of developers working on dual applications or maybe doing very simple things like reading things from a form and writing to a database. Why is that happening, right? Those people don't realize the big opportunities there is there, or there's not enough opportunity for everyone. What do you think is going on?
Well, I would say that if you don't like what you're doing, you're not doing something interesting, and you have to ask yourself why. There's you know yourself, there's plenty of opportunities in this particular field, and there might be valid reasons why you're doing what you're doing. It could be. I mean, I can think of many different reasons why people might take a job that they don't really enjoy in this industry. It might be just geographics. Where Heinz is that there was very few companies hiring people there, and the companies that were hiring there, if you were a developer, you just took the job if you wanted to stay in that particular location. Mm-hmm. And that's perfectly okay. You're choosing, in this case, you're making a life choice and saying, okay, the job I'm doing now becomes secondary to that. However, even there, I would say, okay, the question is, why are you making that particular choice? For instance, I'm sitting here in the middle of Najkovaci, and Heinz is in Hanya, Crete, and many years in the middle of nowhere, and we know other people that live in some very bizarre locations, and they have they're doing very interesting work. I can look at Attila Szegedi as an example. I mean, he put JavaScript into the JVM, and he's sitting just a couple 100 kilometers south of here in Szeged right now, and he's doing some interesting work. People who ran Twitter. In other words, there's many different ways of working. We have the traditional way of working, where you basically get a job when you get out of school, and you retire from the same job, going to the same office every day. But I think that's a world that's really going away very quickly. We have so many different ways of structuring our work, and again, really, we're limited by our imagination and how we structure our work, and what we can do to find interesting things, and basically change our lot in life, and possibly still live where we want to live. And maybe that's into that particular blocking. But whatever whatever it is, you have to sit back and say, okay, what's stopping me from doing what I want to do? Mm-hmm. And what steps can I take in order to work myself into a place where I'm doing something that I really want to do? I mean, there's lots of people that are writing forms to database applications, and that's what they want to do. And right. I say, so, there's lots of people who are willing to pay for that, because that's exactly all they need. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Different. You have to ask yourself, what's stopping me from doing that? And a lot of times, I think if you look inside, it'll be fear. Fear of failure.
Yeah, I want to actually go on the fear sides. There's because I the other question we asked was the biggest fear that people have, and there's lots of different things, and let me kind of go through some of them here. I'm
a Brazilian police officer, but also a developer. I'm always learning, and I hope someday. Okay, fantastic. Well, so you have a career. You're a police officer. And you're a developer. I'm not sure how those two things wise, but that there's a lot of opportunities for developers in criminology, and that repositioning yourself in the organization to actually what kind of police officer you are, but repositioning yourself to actually to be a developer in criminology, you'd have to look and say, okay, what is the gap? What's my knowledge gap and my skill gap between these, where I am and where I want to be, assuming that I would want to, stay. And I would say that that's a perfectly that'd be a perfectly valid. I think it would be some very interesting career path, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I hope to become a Java champion someday. Well, that would be great, because that means there would be more people out there, beating the bush saying, hey, Java's great. Here's how you can do cool stuff in Java.
Yeah, it's one interesting.
That's how we became Java champions.
Yeah, one interesting thing about Sidronio here, that's it's a lot of people. You said that you started as a chemist, right? Chemistry, right? And a lot of people have this knowledge of the things they do, right? So Sidronio is a police officer, and a lot of people actually work on. One of my best developer friends, Ian Schessler, he was actually a artist, right? He did a plastic artist. So,
Cool.
So I think that once you get this knowledge of something that you have a very, very good knowledge of, and then you start working on software development, you have a big advantage on that area, right? Because you actually know the area. And a lot of developers that will actually work to solve problems for that particular area, they will not know the things that you do, right? So it's an amazing opportunity. Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, to be a domain expert and have the development skills, I mean, it's completely killer. I mean, it just gives you a step up on everywhere else. One company I did, one of the best interviews I ever had was for this company in Boston, and they were doing drug things, and they wanted their developers to spend 3 months in the lab prior to actually touching a keyboard in the company, because they wanted to give these guys domain knowledge, so that when they actually interacted with the scientists that were doing the work, that they would have some real life understanding as to what's going on. Now, of course, they liked me because I'd already worked with a number of scientists doing that type of stuff. So I wouldn't have had to have gone through that particular experience, and I was going to start programming pretty much right away. But the point is that they recognize the value of domain knowledge, and I think companies really value you having domain knowledge. So banks, for instance, you have to have domain knowledge, otherwise. Otherwise, you see this, developers will actually go off and they become licensed traders, licensed in some aspect of banking, and then they'll go back to developing. They just look at it as opening up their career opportunities at that point.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the fears here. So one fear that seems to kind of come back again and again is too many things happening at the same time, right? So we have things here. For example, John asked that he was worried about the industry is like a young person's game, because you got to learn so many things so fast. And then Ivan says that there's too many technologies at play. There's not enough time to master them all. Craig echoes the same thing. His biggest fear is not having enough time to learn and practice. And Wide also the same thing. He fears of stagnancy and inability to keep learning. Thomas says, echoes the same thing, starting out because there's so much things to learn, right? And so I mean, there's like Larry says, not being able to internalize things, because of too many things. Stuart is worried about becoming obsolete. It's like lots and lots of people are worried about this. Omer says the technology stack selection, right? So many things to choose for. Probably it's that it's like so it's looks like there's so many things happening at the same time that everyone is kind of worried about not being able to learn everything, not having the time to learn everything. Do we actually need to learn everything? Is that like a reasonable fear? Is that is there ways to overcome this big fear? Because everyone seems to have that.
Well, I would say that the fundamentals of a computer haven't changed that much the beginning. You know, things will get incrementally different in different areas at different times. You know, in 2005 we went from single core to multi-core, and of course I created all kinds of different things that you had to learn about. But I think what you're looking at is that is taking incremental steps. You spend, you know, like I spend an hour and a half a day reading what's going on, but what the changes are. Today I just looked at what's new in the next version of Linux. You know, so that was my thing today. So I've learned those things, and I might go back and review them if I need them at a deeper level and everything like that. But the point is, and now I can move on and I can look at something else. And that's generally what I keep on doing, is just like, look at this, look at that. As long as you have strong fundamentals and you understand, you know, the fundamentals as to how everything works, what you find is that from that point forward, everything tends to be an incremental change, unless you get a huge disruption. If you get a huge disruption, then you get a problem. Then you're basically are going to have to rails in order to deal with the disruption, and that'll take some time to do that, right? But you just keep going incrementally, you won't get behind, and you'll keep up. Okay, and you just need to schedule yourself that way. So actually, what we found is by specializing, going to higher valued skill sets, what happens is that your rates go higher, which means that you can build in to your schedule and your rates time to read, time to write, time to talk, time to educate, you know, time to listen, time to do this webinar as an example. And so as long as you understand, you know, what your goals are financially and stuff like that, then you can look at a path to how do I get them, and then you can say, okay, well, as part of maintaining relevancy for the future, I need to invest. And that just needs to become part of your schedule.
Okay.
And people who are scheduling things or giving you work have to understand that. That's just part of the schedule to them, or somehow you basically, you know, keep on doing it. So the schedule.
Okay.
And so that's how I've managed to keep up for as long as I've been able to keep up. And because I've been worried about being obsolete since, you know, forever.
Okay.
So far, I think I've won.
Yeah. So I think there's a question that you are very well suited to answer. You know, we're talking here about being a celebrity developer, and for me, a celebrity developer or a Java champion or a rock star developer, it's actually someone that keep working on to evolve and to become better in whatever we want to do, and you know, eventually you'll be known by the things that you're doing. And there's a lot of people that have this dream, right? You know, so let me just get a few ones here. So Pearl says that, you know, he wants to be a developer that's well known for his knowledge and competence, and so he can work on nice projects. Then Juan Pablo says that I would like to be one of the celebrity Java developers of my country. And
share your knowledge.
Yeah. So you know, someone else here. There is someone else here that wanted to be Altul wants to be a Java champion, right? And Nitis wants to be a software architect. You know, so there is this Hamal says that he wants to be a star Java developer. And so I mean, what is exactly a star Java developer, a rock star, a celebrity? What is a Java champion? How do you become one?
Well, okay. In my opinion, Java champion is just someone who has gone out and I guess, you know, we could say that we've championed Java, but we really haven't. All we've been doing is just sharing our knowledge and telling, you know, giving people projects, information about how they can become better at developing Java applications, right? Pointing out features and technologies and different things that that people could be using every day in their work in order to produce a better product, just to get better. So I would say that if people want to be like the go-to guy on their project, then I would say that they just have to be open, approachable, and be willing to share and try to be helpful with knowledge. I mean, this is the case if you're not willing to share, then it's very likely that you won't succeed in any of these goals. And it's less likely that people are going to be willing to help you when you need help also, because even as a Java champion and supposedly rock star, celebrity, whatever all that means, I have no idea in reality. I don't know everything on this list that are a lot more knowledgeable on a number of subjects in Java than I am, and turn to them and say, hey, what do you think of this? And they'll tell me.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm doing.
We all need help.
I'm asking to you the things that I want to know, right?
Right, exactly, right. So what do you see as a black swan event in Java? Well, that's an interesting question, because by definition, a black swan is sort of an unpredictable orthogonal event that occurs. And if I had a glass ball and could predict black swan events, then I'm not going to tell you, because this is one thing I wouldn't share. No, just kidding. It's hard to say. That's a good way to say
I don't know, right?
There's scary things on the horizon. You have to worry about the adoption of 9. But I think it'll all go well. The last conversation I had with Mark Reinhold at DevOps, that 9 was on track, and that things were going to work out very well in Java 9.
Cool.
So.
Okay. So let me just quickly answer this here. So Juan Pablo asked about, he just joined a JCP as an associate member. So I think this is really good move for you, Juan. And I'm just going to answer your question just with a future thing. We're going to do a webinar probably early next year, where we're going to talk about, we just had the JCP board meeting about an hour before this call here started, and one of the things that we're going to be working next year is by helping people like you who want to understand how to participate in JCP, and how to improve your career by participating in JCP. So I'm going to prepare some specific materials for that, and I'll get back to you of that question, Juan.
Yeah, I think joining the JCP is a good idea, and getting involved is a good idea, because it helps you be seen as an expert in a certain subject matter. Because if you're directly involved with editing, with reviewing or writing specifications for the next JEE server, then obviously that's going to give you a leg up on everybody else. Because most people don't even read the specs.
Right. Yes.
Right. And you'll be writing the specs, so it should give you a leg up on everyone else.
Yeah. So
what
Heinz,
you say is a NetBeans.
Heinz makes a comment. Yeah, because we're it's like 1 hour and a half almost. But so Heinz makes a comment that I think it's very valid for the Java champion. So he says that the strength of the Java champion community is that we can speak to other Java champions. You can find an expert on any subject in Java, right, among the Java champions. And if there isn't, then we make an expert on that subject at Java champion. So
that's Heinz being a bit selfish for all the right reasons, right?
Yeah. So he has a question for you. He says, what do you say as a NetBeans Dream Team member about NetBeans going to Apache? So we actually have 2 NetBeans Dream Team members here, one interviewing the other. So it's nice.
I'm a bit bipolar on the whole thing. in one sense, I'm, I'll go to the bad bit first, and then we can talk about the good bit. The bad bit was the project was very, very close to actually being completely cut and defunded and basically left to rot on the vine. So it really continues to question Oracle's true commitment to Java and maintaining Java as a relevant technology moving forward. And it's really kind of a weird situation because you get all these signals that they're doing that, they're keeping Java vibrant and relative. And then you get all of these other signals coming from other parts of Oracle that are telling you exactly the opposite, that they would just in maintenance mode and have it sail away and fade away. And so that's, I guess part of my role, in which you mentioned at the beginning, and other people, Java Champions' role, is to hold Oracle's feet to the fire to make sure that they understand that the community is watching and that this is important to us. And because of that, we're going to hold them to the commitments that they made when they went out and bought Sun,
right,
over the Java ecosystem. So that's one thing I think that's an important role for us, is that we do have special routes into Oracle, and we want to use them to make sure that the Java ecosystem is properly supported.
Right.
On the other hand, I look at this as being a good move because, essentially NetBeans was being funded by one particular group in Oracle, and there were many other groups in Oracle that are actually looking at Java, and they're saying, like, we can't contribute, we can't do anything, because even though it's an open source project, it was sort of like not an open source project.
Mm-hmm.
Actually go to Apache, open it up in a way that makes it like a real open source project. Now you can see everything's going on. You can be involved in all of the discussions. You can submit patches, and you're pretty sure that they're going to be accepted as long as you follow the culture that's being developed by Gertian. Mm-hmm. And there's other groups in Oracle now looking at this, going like, now we can contribute. NetBeans stays relevant to us.
Yeah.
From my perspective, we've taken Visual VM, and it's been moved, and I should be helping them do some more moving over the Christmas holidays of mailing lists and things like that. But again, we're looking at this and going like, okay, well, Visual VM was always fairly open, so there wasn't really that big an issue with it. But even now, you can see that it's actually in a better position than when it was just being essentially being funded by this one group that has been slowly defunding a lot of open source initiatives. Mm-hmm. So so I'm a bit bipolar on it, because it makes you suspicious of people's motivations and commitments. But on the other hand, overall, it's a nice benefit. And I would say that the other thing that people probably don't know about is the deprecation of CMS in Java 9. Actually, Oracle wanted to remove the collector from the code base, so it wasn't even present in the code base. And I would say that a number of people have put the brakes on that effort. Not only Java Champions, but another external companies were interested in maintaining CMS. And I actually see this as a good opportunity to start a more open process within Oracle with regards to OpenJDK, mm-hmm. and actually forcing the community to take more responsibility for the technology that they've become really, really dependent upon, right? I mean, this is technology that we bet our lives on, and it seems a shame that we're going to allow a small group of people within a corporation from us. when there's so many people that are dependent upon it. So I think it is part of our responsibility to see, hey, you know, how can we get involved there, contribute to make sure that we make sure that the platform remains viable for us. You know, everybody, you know, I think the Oracle people are looking at this as a zero-sum game, which means that if they're helping their competitors, then they lose. And I don't see it that way. I think this is wealth of the commons, in the sense that if you want to get richer in this world, you're going to have to help your competitors get richer also.
Right.
But everybody's going to benefit.
Yeah.
Right. But you'll benefit too.
Yeah, exactly. So as a NetBeans Dream Team member and a former NetBeans community manager, I think, you know, for me, NetBeans going to Apache is a dream come true, and I'm completely positive about it. You know, I don't care the reasons why what this decision was taken, but you know, it's simply for me it's an amazing decision. So I'm not bipolar on this. You know, I don't care about the reasons. I think that the results is what's going to make a big difference for us. But I think we are totally out of time here. But I just wanted to go, you know, well, we set out this webinar here and thanks a lot, Kirk, for being here with us. But, you know, to get an idea from someone that's recognized worldwide as an expert, as a Java champion, and to get an idea, what can we do to become a celebrity developer? And, you know, I'm not sure about you, but I took plenty of notes, right? And
man,
yeah.
did you?
And if you take a look at some of the things that Kirk said, right? So, you know, if you want to be a celebrity developer, right, you got to understand the computer, right? You know, you got to understand how things work. You got to understand operation systems, IDEs. You got to know your tools. You got to know the big picture and the little picture. But that's, you know, that's about the technology. But the technology is not enough, right? So Kirk reads a lot, and he learned how to learn by himself, right? So that's I think this is an amazing skill that we all gotta have, right? And then one of the most important thing that I found Kirk said here, he said that it is your responsibility, right? You that watching us here, it's your responsibility to educate yourself, right? So go find an employer that will allow you to educate yourself, that will sponsor and promote your education. Because if you don't go do this, then, you know, who are going to do this for you, right? And then Kirk also says things about, you know, if you don't get help from people, you don't go far, and if you don't help people, you're not going to get help from people, right? So that's a very thing. So that's why you got to meet people. You got to get out of your cubicle, because once you meet people, and you can go to JCrate to meet people. Once you meet people, you stop chasing trends, right? Because then you have people that are actually going to go do things with you. So for that, you're going to need some soft skills. So Kirk talks about you have to be cross-discipline. He learns economics and business skills. I think business skills is something that we all need to know, because you need to know how to ask for money, right? You know, you need to sell, right? Yeah. Otherwise, how can you be a celebrity if you don't sell, right? So, you know the sales people, understand their problems, understand what's important for them, understand what's important for the business, right? So, and there's many ways of working. Jobs are going away, so we have the opportunity to structure our own way of working, right? So we got to ask ourselves, what is stopping me from doing what I do? And, you know, we got to find out what is our knowledge gap, our skill gap, those steps to not be behind, right? And so, you know, this is a life lesson, Kirk. Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry, the audio just cut out at the last when you asked the question.
Okay, so I didn't ask a question. I'm saying this is a life lesson, right? So thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing all of these, because it's you know, what you shared here in 1 hour, we can spend the rest of the year and the rest of the next year doing it, and it's still not going to be enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other point of life is making it so far enough that you can actually have time to learn all this stuff too, right?
That's right.
So I have to say that I'm very flattered to have been asked to speak, and I'm very flattered that so many people have stayed on line so long just to hear me along with the stream of consciousness about the subject. And yeah, so it's very flattering. Thank you.
Yes, there's lots of people here saying thanks. Very good. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the great webinar. Thanks. Very informative. There's one comment that I like in here very much. There's someone that said, where is this? He says, Partha says that it's 12:40 a.m. in India, and it's a time well spent, right? So thanks a lot, Kirk. And thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to send over at Code4Life, I'm going to send you the link to the replay so you can re-watch the replay. Remember that we have all kinds of other videos on the Code4Life page. So thanks a lot for everyone for being here. Thanks to all of you. And thanks a lot, Kirk. It was amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno. You've been a gracious host. Very kind.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.